Hello, everyone. How are we? Hopefully, all of you is having a fantastic day wherever you are around the world. And welcome back to yet another Liverpool news episode for you guys this evening. A bit different, of course. Obviously, it is now just a week-to-week basis where it does come down to the football side of things, of course. But the news does not stop there. Where it does come to Liverpool, and of course, obviously, with the season, of course, winding down now. Obviously, Liverpool 2 wins away from winning the Premier League title. Of course, more news, more information will be coming out on what will happen, of course, in the summer, of course. And of course, we're going to talk about it, as it says right there, big summer window ahead for Liverpool. And it does seem like it is going to be a very, very busy window for Liverpool, I would say, as well, going into the summer transfer window, of course. And again, let me know your guys' thoughts on everything that we do mention, of course, in tonight's episode, because we do have a pretty packed show. Of course, obviously, we'll still talk about, obviously, the weekends, of course, obviously beating West Ham at home, and, of course, now Liverpool only being 2 wins away. Pretty much, there is still a possibility Liverpool win the league next week, as well, which, yeah, that's unbelievable, me saying that, of course, as well. Again, which I absolutely love, of course. But, of course, we're going to have a look at the summer, obviously, big summer window ahead. Of course, we're also going to discuss Costas Tsimikas, as well. Looks like there are a few Premier League clubs interested in, of course, our Greek Scouser, of course. We'll, of course, talk about Virgil van Dijk and his new deal. We're going to talk about Maka as well. Obviously, Real Madrid links today have been rampant for some reason, which, of course, we will discuss a bit later on. And, of course, we'll talk about Xavi Simons being on Liverpool's radar, which, of course, that has been a talking point now for a very long time, since I would probably say since the summer transfer window. That's been a talking point, I would say, in terms of what Liverpool are going to be bringing to the table, and could possibly take him away from, of course, Leipzig at the end of course, the summer transfer window. But again, let me know your guys' thoughts down below, of course, as well. But yeah, obviously, the big one will be, of course, in terms of, this will be the main one that we will talk about. Obviously, big summer window ahead. And it is a big summer window ahead because, of course, look, we've got plenty of outgoings will happen. I think plenty of incomings will go as well. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see anyway. But we will dive straight into the news then, and let's talk then about Costas, because as he says, their Prem clubs want Tsimikas. Now, it does go on to say in a piece, I believe, that was done. I believe it was a Greek newspaper. I'm not too sure, but it did go on to say that 3 Premier League clubs are among those interested in signing Costas Tsimikas this summer. And I look at it and go, for me, I think Costas is done at Liverpool. I think, obviously, played yesterday. He played, 60, 70 minutes yesterday for Liverpool against West Ham. You look at it, and in my opinion, I think when you do, when you look around that side of things, for me, look, Costas has done the job that Liverpool signed him for. They signed him, of course, to be the backup for Andy Robertson, and I think to also compete, because I think even looking at that time when Liverpool, of course, I think we signed Costas back the season after we won the league. Obviously, that was the year that, of course, we brought in. We brought in Thiago, we brought in not Fabinho, sorry, we brought in Diogo Jota, Thiago, and Costas as well. And really, we didn't. I don't think the initial plan was for Costas to just be a bench warmer. I think the ideal situation was to be Costas to rival, to rival Robbo. And has he done that to an extent? Sure, you could say it, because lucky, he's provided competition for the place, of course. But I would also add to that and go, well, Liverpool need a left back now who is going to be the right back for the future, who's going to be Arne Slot's left back. And of course, that name that's going around at the minute is, of course, Milos Kerkez, who, again, I think is playing tonight for Bournemouth. But even still, Liverpool need to update really on that position. And I think quite clearly that is now a vocal point for Liverpool. It's no longer, a position that, of course, we're going to maybe obviously potentially add to or add youth to it. I think Liverpool are going to go full heavy metal towards that position in terms of getting the number one target in nice and early. Similar to, in my opinion, I think Kirkez or whoever Liverpool think is the proper left back choice. I think we're going to get that wrapped up pretty quickly as the season ends. Of course, we're not going to have concrete names as of yet. Of course, we have an inkling of what Liverpool will do. But of course, I think even David Ornstein tonight mentioned that on NBC that, again, interested parties in Kirkez is Liverpool, City, AC Milan and Napoli. And again, obviously with AC Milan, they're going to be selling Theo Hernandez, of course. Napoli, I don't think Napoli can compete really, even though, of course, they've had money from for obviously Kvaratskhelia. But I think for me personally, looking at it, I personally see just us in City, if that is the case, if that is the list that, of course, that are interested in Kirkez, I think he will be a Liverpool player come the summer. Of course, could happily be wrong, and it might be another player out there that, again, we don't know at the moment who's currently being linked to Liverpool. But for me, I would say Kirkez is that name that, similar back 2 summers ago, where Macca's name kept on coming up for Liverpool. And then it was quite clearly obvious that, of course, Macca was going to be a part of Liverpool's rebuild in the midfield. I think that's kind of similar with Kirkez, where, of course, he already has somebody at the football club that he knows very well in Dom Szoboszlai. And I also think when you look at the options around, especially at City, I think City, obviously, you've got Gvardiol there. Of course, Gvardiol can play centre-back, and then Kirkez can play out on the left. But I think right now, if you look at it right now, who will Kirkez start for? It would be Liverpool, and looking at that, he would just walk into the team and make the team better, really, because he's had, again, 2 really good years in football. Had a really good in Holland, moved then to Bournemouth, and then again has excelled at Bournemouth. Of course, Richard Hughes signing, so he should, of course, know the player very well. But of course, it's that sense of, again, that for me, I think Milos Kirkez makes a lot of sense in that position as well, and he's by far an upgrade on Costas. Even though, again, Costas has done very well at Liverpool in terms of what we brought him in for and the price, really. And I think as well, depending on what who the teams are, I think it'd be very interesting to see what does happen. In terms of where Liverpool might look to again sell Costas to. Are they happy to sell him to a Premier League team or Europe? I think, of course, we talk about the teams interested in Kirkez. It would not surprise me if, by any means, if an Italian team didn't come in for Costas, and I would be surprised if there wasn't more European clubs interested in Costas. And then when you ask yourself, how much could you see Liverpool selling him for? I have it at £10 million. I don't know if anyone else would agree or disagree with that, really. But I think for me, 10 million makes a lot of sense. We bought him for what, 12.5. And I think, look, if you could get 5 to 10 million for Costas, I think that would be a really, really good deal on a Liverpool side of things, of course, anyway. But let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments, of course, down below anyway. So we will move on to the Macca stuff because, again, quite hilarious, in my opinion, to be fair. So according to Marca, which, again, take with a pinch of salt, even though, of course, they'll scream about the Trent Alexander-Arnold stuff, of course, claiming that they are not interested in Martin Zubimendi. They want Liverpool's Alexis McAllister to bolster the midfield for next season. And look, it's never going to happen. It's never, ever going to happen, really. And, well, I say never, ever. Of course, it could always happen at Real Madrid because, again, it's Real Madrid, unfortunately. But as of right here, right now, I cannot see Macca leaving to go to Real Madrid, personally. I think Macca, again, he's settled with his family. I think, again, the responsibility he has within the team, for me, again, I think he's by far Liverpool's best midfielder, I would say. Like even when he came to the football club, there's a reason why Messi loves him. And there's a reason why that opening day of the World Cup, they lost. Of course, they lost to Saudi Arabia. And then since then, Maka came into that Argentinian team and has never looked back since. He again, I'm not saying again, Maka won the World Cup for Argentina, but still, you kind of know what I mean. Is Maka, obviously Rodrigo de Paul, like these types of players were brought into that team and they were the workhorses of that midfield that won Argentina the World Cup. And Maka, for me, I think he's very much underrated. In my personal opinion, I think Maka, by far, I would say, goes under the radar in a lot of people's teams. When we talk about now for like team of the year, and obviously when we're talking about PFA player of the year and so on as well, of course PFA player of the year is Mo Salah, but in terms of the team of the season, Maka deserves to be in there, in my opinion. I think he's been excellent for Liverpool. And again, when we talk about consistency, we're talking about Maka having an 8 or 9 out of 10 consistently throughout the season. And he has become Liverpool's consistent midfielder. Of course, obviously Ryan Gravenberch and Thomas Szoboszlai, they've helped and obviously added quality to the midfield. But again, I think Maka is unbelievable. And I personally don't think we'll end up selling him. But look, I'm very much that sense as well, where for me, I don't think we'll end up selling him or looking to sell him really, because look, in my opinion, I think Liverpool would be dumb to do that, really. It would be really, really dumb to do it, to be fair. But again, let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments as well. Big up Abdul as well, saying hi chat, how are you all? Big up also, how is the LFC community? Like, comment, share and subscribe. 2 more games to win. FSG won't spend much in the summer and they are cheap. Wow, walk alone as well. Hopefully, doing well Abdul as well. But no, look, I think Liverpool will spend a lot of money this summer. I think, of course, we'll talk about it a bit later on, but I think Liverpool will buy this summer for sure. Anyway, but speaking of obviously news, and of course Virgil van Dijk, we are waiting for the contract news. Of course, obviously Virgil did hint at it a little bit yesterday, didn't he, after scoring the winner for Liverpool, in post-match, of course, saying that, of course, he knows when there's going to be an announcement, but, we don't know when there'll be an announcement made. I think it'll probably be like Mo, it's most likely going to be towards the end of the week that we will hear about Van Dijk signing a new deal. But of course, it is pretty much all confirmed that, of course, he's going to re-sign. And what I did think was interesting as well today, and well, of course, there's a little bit of a segue when we're talking about, a big summer transfer window ahead, really. And of course, Van Dijk obviously did an interview with The Athletic. Let me quickly get it for you guys, but there we go. Obviously saying that Liverpool planning for a big summer transfer window. Of course, this is Virgil van Dijk who did say this, of course, and it does go on to say, as you guys can see on screen, but there, Liverpool planning for a big summer in the transfer market from Virgil van Dijk. It does go on to say that Virgil van Dijk believes Liverpool are planning a big summer in the transfer market, with the club's captain close to signing a new 2-year contract. The Dutch defender's late winner against West Ham on Sunday edged Arne Slot's side closer to the Premier League title glory, and with Van Dijk set to follow in the footsteps of Mohamed Salah by committing his future to Anfield until 2027, he's excited about the future as Liverpool look to bolster their squad from a position of strength this summer. He said, I think Liverpool should be able to challenge for titles in the upcoming years, Van Dijk said. However happens in the summer in terms of players going out, players coming in, I think it should be a big summer. I think they're planning to make it a big summer, so we'll all have to trust the board as a Liverpool connected fan to do right job as well, which again, look, I think for everybody that is huge news, really. And look, I do believe, look, Liverpool will have a huge summer this year, and I do believe it, because I think the amount of outgoings going out, I think obviously Trent leaving, that will be a big a big thing for the squad, really, just because, again, the creativity side of things, Liverpool are going to have to create elsewhere. Normally we've had, been able to obviously create, obviously, from the right back position and have that, such a unique, position in terms of strength and from Trent's passing abilities. But I think now, and I think what has been clear since, of course, we've had no right back over the last couple of weeks, especially with, no Conor Bradley, obviously having to play Curtis Jones right back, obviously Jarell Konza there as well, is the fact that Liverpool do struggle, with creativity. And of course, is that down to tactics? Is it down to personnel? I think it's a bit of both. Really, I think obviously Arne Slot doesn't trust certain people as well within Liverpool. I do think, of course, we know the players that we have an idea that he doesn't trust or don't really favour at Liverpool. I think those being, of course, Harvey Elliott or Taro Endo. Of course, I think with Endo it's a bit different because he sees him as a different profile, different profile defensive midfielder. But I think with Taro Endo will be leaving Liverpool this summer, even though personally I don't think we should be doing it. I think again we should have that type of profile in the squad. But again, I think I wouldn't be too surprised if Chiesa was to leave, but I also think he might end up staying. But again, we're talking about Darwin Núñez, we're talking about Luis Diaz. Like, these players are going to be leaving in the summer. It's quite clear Liverpool are going to be getting rid of a few big surprises, really. And whether or not, we're going to end up bringing in like for like, I think that would be another question, really, because I think this summer, of course, Arne Slot's first proper summer, I think, at Liverpool, I think it's huge because you look at Jurgen Klopp's first summer transfer window. He ended up having, his first big signings were Sadio Mane, Joel Matip, Gini Wijnaldum. Like, these players were the benchmark for the Jurgen Klopp era. Like, these players were the guys that, again, we know and love from the Jurgen Klopp era, and they were, again, the first big major signings for the team. And how then we went on to go and win the Champions League, go and win the Premier League. Like, these were the initial steps to do that. And of course, when you look at the money side of things, even over the years where Liverpool, I think even in that summer, I think we spent like 150 mil, I think it was. Of course, in the summer of 2018, we ended up spending, big money on Alisson. We ended up obviously signing Van Dijk in the January, but still, we signed Salah, we signed Van Dijk. Sorry, we signed Van Dijk, we signed Alisson, we signed Naby Keita, Fabinho. Again, like, we slowly grew from that summer onwards, and it's kind of the same thought process, really, where I think Liverpool will go big this summer. Whether or not we go big on one particular player, I don't necessarily know we'll do that. But I think in terms of just in general the price, I think we are talking about 250 million plus, because again, that's the amount I think we're going to probably generate. You look at it, Darwin's going to go, if both Luis Diaz and Darwin Núñez leave to the Saudi Pro League, again, you're talking what? 70 for Darwin, 60 or 70 for Darwin. You possibly could get 50 for Lucho as well. You could even possibly get more for Lucho as well, to be fair. And then, of course, if Liverpool are going to get rid of Harvey, that's one thing. You've got Kelleher in there. You've got Tyler Morton, which again Liverpool will be asking about 15-20 million for him. Ben Doak as well, also in that conversation. So there's plenty of money to be made for Liverpool this summer. But then I think what people's expectations are of, okay, if Liverpool, for example, go out and spend £300 million this summer, don't then expect Liverpool to go and spend 300 million next summer, if that makes sense. Because Liverpool can't generate that unless, of course, there's more players that we're going to sell on. But Liverpool won't be then spending £400 million every single summer. Liverpool will have one big window, and then might have two then very small transfer windows. And again, that's probably the reality of it, really. And again, for a big club like Liverpool, of course, as supporters, we get frustrated because, look, Liverpool should be signing, the best around, and that doesn't matter when it is. Look at, there's been, in 2021 when Liverpool had no centre-halves available, no fit players at all, and we ended up struggling that season because of it. We could have paid £85 million for Ibu, and we didn't. We ended up waiting 6 months, getting him for 34 million, and that was our centre back. Of course, we brought in, what was it, Ben Davies and Ozan Kabak, who, again, I think Ozan Kabak really, at the time, a lot of people thought, oh, he might be the next best centre back, because again, in Germany, he was getting spoken about quite highly in terms of his talent. And that never come to fruition. Again, I don't even know where he is now. He might be back at Schalke. But even still, look, Liverpool tried that. It didn't work. And then went for the next best quality in terms of Ibu Konate, really. And that's what I think this summer really is. Because, look, I think you look at somebody like, for me, Personally, I want Alexander Isak. Of course, I do. And I think every Liverpool supporter would want Alexander Isak, but that is an impossible deal to do by the looks of things. As of things right now, it looks impossible to do. And the next down from that, for me personally, I want Hugo Ekitike, because he's very similar to Alexander Isak. And I also think if he was to go somewhere, in about 2 or 3 years' time, we're going to be talking about him exactly the same as we are Alexander Isak. He's the exact same profile, everything around him. I think, again, there are a few things, of course, he could do better, but still, I think Liverpool, if we was not to get him, and we didn't get Isak as well, again, that would be a major problem, in my opinion. But still, plenty of people want other people. Like I've seen people say, of course, they want Victor Gyökeres, they want Osimhen, they want Harry Kane, for example, as well. Again, the whole striker list is huge, but Liverpool have to get it right. Like this summer, we can't be gambling with, for example, like Darwin Núñez again. Are they going to make it or not? If the data team are committed and fully determined that that person is the guy, then go and get him. Because look, for me, we've already played that trick of going against the data. Really, obviously, Darwin Núñez was against the data. Even though now I think they've tried to backtrack and go, oh yeah, we wanted Alexander Isak. No, they wanted Christopher Nkunku. But look, I think for me, Liverpool, they need to get it right, because if they get it wrong, it could be horrific for the future as well. But big up John as well, saying, hi Colin, thoughts on Ekitike's price from Frankfurt? 100 million euros seems a big gamble, and don't think FSG will stump up the cash, in my opinion. I've seen that today. I've seen people mention it. I've not seen where it's come from. But again, if he is 100 million, look, what's 100 million euros? It's around 85 million pounds or somewhere around there. Yeah, I can't see Liverpool going for that. If it's for this 80 million euros that we're talking about, which is what, 60 odd million pounds, then yeah, I think absolutely, that could be a deal that Liverpool could do. But yeah, I think it'd be very, very interesting to see what does happen come the summer window, of course. Anyway, but look, I think that there are big signings coming up. I think, look, I think left back is a big option for Liverpool. I think centre half. I think left wing as well. Striker. Again, there's a few big positions needing to be filled this summer, of course. Anyway, and talking about potentially big signings, Xavi Simons, of course. Now, David Lynch was speaking on Anfield Index earlier on today, and this is what he had to say about the Xavi Simons situation. Now, of course, we've known for some time that Xavi Simons is on Liverpool's radar. Obviously, David Ornstein mentioned back in the summer transfer window that Liverpool was a likely destination if Xavi Simons was to leave PSG. Of course, he's now signed a full contract with RB Leipzig, but it was only an 18-month deal. So it looks like, of course, he's going to leave Leipzig in the summer. I believe it was 18 months, so it was 2 years anyway, that he signed for. And of course, David Lynch has added his opinion to it. So he does go on to say that Xavi Simons is definitely a player Liverpool like. 100% is on the radar. Whether that becomes something in this summer depends a lot on competition around him, where the spots, where he can fit him in up for the squad. But if it does, then there's a real possibility for that to happen. Then I'm pretty sure he'll be high up on the list. they definitely like him as well. And that was what David Ornstein had to say. Not David Ornstein, sorry, David Lynch had to say about Xavi Simons. And like I said on Twitter earlier, for me, I've come around now to the fact that, again, I think Xavi Simons will be a good fit for Liverpool. Just purely because, again, can play on the left, has links within the squad, of course, can play, obviously played a big part with Cody Gakpo, for example, at PSV. When he was at at PSV, of course, obviously he's had the experience of going to PSG. He's had the experience now of playing obviously more full-time football now at a place like RB Leipzig, for example, as well. And for me, I think it's definitely one that Liverpool could end up doing. I think Liverpool will do it personally. I think Liverpool will get him because, again, he can add quality to the positions of, for example, an attacking midfielder, or he can play on the left, where I think Liverpool might use him a lot more, for a backup for maybe Cody, in that sense of the left-hand side will be Cody and Xavi Simons. The central positions will be Dom and Xavi Simons as well. But also, again, utilising that. Because to be fair, looking at this season in particular, he's played a lot of football on the left-hand side for RB Leipzig this season as well. So there's plenty of positions that, of course, he can play, which, again, Liverpool love in the past. Obviously, under Jurgen Klopp, a very versatile attacker would go down lovely for Liverpool as well. But I think, of course, this has been a long-term interest in him. And of course, I think even Arne Slot has spoken about plenty of times how Liverpool have, or he has an interest in young Dutch talent as well. So it would be very interesting to see what does happen with Xavi Simons. For me, I think Liverpool will sign him in the summer transfer window. Of course, whether or not, of course, we pay 60 odd million pounds, I think will depend as well, depending on, of course, positions being sold like Lucho or of course a Harvey as well anyway. But look, for me, like I said, I think Liverpool will buy Xavi Simons in the summer transfer window, of course, anyway. But look, let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments down below. Of course, it's very much an interesting summer. It will be, of course, for the Reds. And look, we'll just have to wait and see for what happens, of course, because look, it will be a very busy summer. I think it will be, at least anyway, because of course, not only have we got the forwards positions to think about, of course, the centre back positions, because who knows, Ibu might end up leaving as well. So it could very well be a possibility that Liverpool look to potentially bolster in many positions this summer, of course, anyway. But look, hopefully you haven't guys enjoyed the show. Anyway, apologies it is a short show, but again, there'll be plenty of content throughout the week anyway for you guys, of course. So make sure you are staying tuned to everything on the channel. If you are new around here, of course, please do hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. Of course, obviously, we will try and do opposition preview this week towards the end. Obviously, Leicester away as well. Of course, we'll try and get a few Leicester lads on for that. And yeah, just in general, any bits of news that's come out will be live for it, of course. And we might do some other bits and pieces as well, because, again, like we said, the football is pretty lacking now because Liverpool are out of all the rest of the competitions apart from the Premier League. So we might be looking again at other videos doing on the channel, of course, anyway. But again, let me know your guys' thoughts on everything we've mentioned in tonight's episode anyway. And yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow for another episode. Of course, tomorrow is Champions League nights as well, so it might be a bit earlier on the channel, of course, anyway. But make sure you are staying tuned, of course, anyway. And hopefully we might have the Virgil van Dijk news very soon, anyway. Hopefully, fingers crossed. It'll be in the next couple of days anyway that he does sign that contract anyway. But until next time, guys, that is going to be it from me. I've been Connor from the COP Council. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Ta-ra.